Venture Atlanta is a consortium between the Atlanta CEO Council, the Technology Association of Georgia, and the Metro Atlanta Chamber. We came together with one primary purpose in mind, and that is to connect our entrepreneurs, our advanced technology companies, and those companies that are emerging with venture capitalists from around the country.
I'm John Yates, co-chair of the Metro Atlanta Chamber's Technology Leadership Council and chair of the Corporate Technology Group at the Atlanta law firm of Morris, Manning & Martin. Leaders like you are preparing to shape the future of Atlanta's technology community. We're building on an outstanding history of successful entrepreneurship and innovation, launched in large part from Georgia's world-renowned universities. As reported by the Metro Atlanta Chamber and the Technology Association of Georgia, our state is among the top 3 in the nation for internet security. Georgia is headquarters to over 93 financial technology companies, and we're among the top 5 states for employment in IT communications and software. We're also the healthcare IT capital of the U.S., with more than 186 healthcare IT companies. Now, these are impressive statistics, but the success of our future will depend on the lessons we've learned from the past challenges. The goal of this chronicle of Atlanta's technology history is to share the life lessons of our leading entrepreneurs and to guide us in setting a profitable and sustainable direction for Georgia's technology community in the years ahead. In the 1970s, Atlanta was booming as the capital of the Southeast. Having proclaimed itself the world's next great city, Atlanta's future was bright. Atlanta legend Ted Turner launched Turner Broadcasting. Hank Aaron was breaking the baseball home run record, and Georgia's own Jimmy Carter was elected president. Atlanta was expanding on an international level with the opening of the Georgia World Congress Center, and Hartsfield Airport became the world's busiest air terminal. With the announcement of the IBM PC in 1981, the technology revolution had officially begun. Across the country, Silicon Valley was evolving at a rapid pace, and the top technology company in our town was Scientific Atlanta. It was the beginning of our state's technology revolution.
Scientific Atlanta became a growth company and brought in a lot of talented young people. Many of those people went out into the telecommunications industry and were the backbone of the building of the telecommunications industry.
Over time, Scientific Atlanta has spawned dozens of leading technology companies and cemented the link between the Georgia Institute of Technology and our tech community. Atlanta continued as a telecommunications hub in the 1980s with global leaders Hayes Microcomputer Products and Digital Communications Associates. Dennis Hayes, a Georgia Tech graduate, started his company and created an industry standard literally around his kitchen table.
The first modem we did plugged into the S100 bus and used a number of standard parts, so it wasn't all that innovative. But when we asked the question, how do we bring that same functionality to any of the other computers that were not an S100 bus, we had to find a standard interface, chose the RS-232 25-pin connector, and had to find a way to control it. Well, that was the synthesis of the Hayes standard AT command set.
Another telecom giant appeared in Atlanta, Digital Communications Associates. The DCA IRMA board was the gold standard for connecting PCs to mainframe computers.
My first experience in the Atlanta technology community was at DCA, Digital Communications Associates, and it was a great first experience because it was a company that was growing rapidly based on the proliferation at that time of PCs in the business world. And what I really learned from that opportunity, where I stayed at DCA for about 7 years, was about leadership and about culture. There were a lot of elements of the culture that were fantastic and that I've been able to bring with me every place I've gone since then.
For a span of time, Atlanta was the global leader in telecom technology. If your computer wanted to talk to another device, you were using technology from Georgia, from DCA, Hayes, or Scientific Atlanta. By the 1980s, Atlanta's telecom giants had ignited a software revolution. The capital for growth was provided by new venture funds, and Nora Mosley Partners and the Advanced Technology Development Fund became Atlanta's first venture capital firms. With the explosive growth of the IBM PC, the global software industry took off. At the center of the U.S. software industry was Atlanta's own Management Science America.
We were cowboys. It was a new industry, new times. We were breaking ground. We were just running out ahead of the world and dropping crumbs for everyone to follow, and we had a ball. I mean, it was, somebody described it as Camelot.
MSA really focused on the consulting business for a while until John Emley came in, and he said, well, you can make money in consulting, but it's only a multiple of salaries, and then you begin to have overhead and bureaucracy and all, and your margins go down. But the software business can have enormous margins if it's done right, and so he concentrated on the software business.
MSA actually helped create the whole package software industry, and we were the one that actually created the prepaid maintenance concept that a number of companies have used over the years.
During that time, we grew from literally the ashes, the $1 million level, to the $200+ million level, and did a public offering in 1981. Acquired several companies along the way, one of which is an Atlanta legend called Peachtree Software.
MSA offspring Peachtree Software, once led by Atlanta technology legends Ben Dyer and Bill Goodhue, now can boast the longest-running software product trademark in the world, our own Peachtree name. And where did the name come from?
We paid an expensive PR agent to look at the street sign in front of our building. That is a true story. And I will certainly say that I am extraordinarily proud of the longevity of the Peachtree Software brand, that it originated legitimately on Peachtree Street and in the city of Atlanta, and grew to great prominence there.
Samna was another Atlanta microcomputer software success story. Several Lanier executives banded together to start this word processing company.
Lanier was in the word processing business. We built a purpose-built computer and software for word processing. But the fact was, once the general purpose computers such as the IBM PC were announced, it was very, very clear that economically our business model was going to die. There was technology happening in many parts of Atlanta, Scientific Atlanta being a very notable place, but it was pretty siloed. It was very proprietary. There was very little information going across companies. Post PC, then it all opened up, and we had a great big surge of technology companies in Atlanta.
By the end of the 80s, the tech community in Atlanta was expanding rapidly. DCA acquired Crosstalk Communications, another leading Atlanta telecom company, along with dozens of other tech companies, and DCA was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The Democratic National Convention came to town. Dun & Bradstreet bought MSA for $330 million. Cordova Ventures was formed, and Cam Lanier sold Telecom USA to MCI. With the eventual sale of DCA, MSA, Crosstalk, and Hayes, the microcomputer software chapter of Atlanta's tech story needed a new focus. Enter the World Wide Web. By the mid-90s, Atlanta-based MindSpring placed our city squarely in the heart of the internet revolution as the leading internet service provider. The Atlanta Braves won the '95 World Series. The nation's first online bank, Security First, was born. Atlanta hosted the 1996 Summer Olympics, and MindSpring and Premier Technologies went public. Like MSA, DCA, and Hayes before it, MindSpring also groomed leading executives in our community. The visionary of MindSpring was Charles Brewer.
I was looking for a business that would kind of help make markets or provide information, but I knew vaguely that the internet existed. When I tried to get connected, it was way harder than it should have been, and I knew enough to know it didn't need to be that hard, and I decided there must be other people like me who would like to to get connected if A, they knew it existed, and B, technically they could manage it. So we set out to help. It was a great culture at MindSpring, and it was all about the values. And Atlanta was a great place to do that. We have here a nice critical mass of people with the technical skills to make a technology company go. But it was all about the values, and that's absolutely what set us apart from the thousands of other ISPs that were starting around that same time. And Atlanta was a great place to do it.
MindSpring can also take credit for grooming Alan Tatel, later to become a leading venture capitalist with Nora Mosley Partners.
I left Cognitech in 1992, and I went over to MindSpring, and I was one of the first employees of MindSpring. It was the 13th, to be specific. And we had gone from 13 people to 750 people in 3 years. I joined Nora Mosley in 1998 and sort of educated them on what the internet was going to be and what it meant was going to happen with the internet, and we started to do a lot of technology investing.
With a solid base of internet companies, the next logical direction for Atlanta was internet security. It remains today a hotbed of entrepreneurial growth for Atlanta. One of the most successful offspring of MSA was Internet Security Systems, ISS, founded by Chris Klaus and Tom Noonan in 1994, and eventually completing a $59 million IPO in 1998.
I met with Chris. I really liked him. We hit it off. He was the technology genius and the security genius, and I just, helped bring about the company around that technology. So Chris had been operating ISS out of his dorm room and out of his grandmother's apartment. We bootstrapped ISS at first. John Imlay came in after we maxed out our credit cards. I think the story is well known here in this town about my 37 Visa cards that we maxed out trying to get the company off the ground, but John put up the seed capital, and the rest is history. 14 years later, IBM pays $1.5 billion for us. So I think ISS will always have a place, and Atlanta will have the place as a founding technology. And you can look around. There's over 100 security companies that have come through Atlanta or been started in Atlanta, and it's an epicenter of security in the world.
Other internet security executives followed in the footsteps of ISS, including Paul Judge, one of Atlanta's highly respected serial entrepreneurs in the internet security field.
I started my PhD focus on network security at Tech. Within a year and a half, I met a gentleman named Jay Chaudhry, and I joined him as we started a company called CipherTrust. So we spent the next 6 years growing that before it was acquired by Secure Computing. And within a year or so later, I started a company called PureWire. And within 2 years, that was acquired by a company called Barracuda Networks. So it's been very fast-paced activity and time here in Atlanta in the technology community.
Another major strength of Atlanta's technology community was and continues to be financial technology. Atlanta is a leader in fintech thanks to global companies like Equifax, Global Payments, First Data, Incom, and Fiserv. And our past successes have included National Data Corporation, Stockholder Systems, Nova, CheckFree, Link, and ChoicePoint. Some of our earliest Atlanta entrepreneurial companies were in the fintech space and included leaders like Richard Brock and Charlie Pepperelli, both of whom remain active in the Atlanta technology community today.
Well, the first company that I started was a CPA firm, and as part of that was a service bureau, computer service bureau. I learned a lot from that, and then I started selling. IBM said, "Would you sell your software to another CPA?" And I thought, well, it's all profit, isn't it? I mean, it's already written. Well, that was an educational process. And one of our early customers was Charlie Pepperelli's CPA firm.
Back then, we were actually developing software to automate CPA offices nationwide, and it was first-time automation. So when the mini computer was released by IBM, it was marketed by IBM as the first affordable small business computer, and we actually leveraged off of the the IBM Salesforce nationwide and did very, very well. In fact, became the leaders in that space in a pretty short amount of time.
The financial technology community in Atlanta also spawned serial entrepreneurs like Trip Rackley.
I felt like that kind of the key was to always find the next big transformation and then look for solutions or opportunities of disruption around those. And so the internet really started to take off. The internet had an opportunity to change the way personal financial management was done, and that was really the origin of Infront. And with Firethorn, it was very similar in the sense that I was sitting there looking at kind of the next wave. And mobility seemed to be that. I can remember being all over the country showing people what we were doing and having more debates over whether the internet would matter or whether mobility would matter over the solution that we were trying to provide.
Our success in the financial technology area accelerated an expansion of Atlanta's e-commerce community. Throughout the 90s, Atlanta became home to the nation's most successful web, e-commerce, logistics, and software as a service businesses.
And toward the end of the 80s, we had an idea for using some of the same technology that we were using for cash management for small businesses to help link companies with their suppliers. There was a new area called EDI, Electronic Data Interchange. And we were one of the early players in that area, and we were focused on helping the suppliers or big companies link up with their small and mid-sized suppliers.
I joined Harbinger and ended up spending from about 15 years, which was just a wonderful experience with Harbinger as we kind of grew that. I think I was the 9th employee joining Harbinger, and we went to like 1,500 employees.
Other entrepreneurs came to Atlanta through venture capital connections.
The first job I had outside of business school was not in Atlanta, it was in Boston, but the opportunity to work for the famed venture capital firm Greylock was too much to pass up. But the call of the South was strong, and as was the call of the opportunity to come move down here and help run a company called IXL, which I had funded. And so in 1998, my wife and I packed up our stuff, put it in the back of a U-Haul, and came down here to Atlanta and have been here ever since.
In addition to internet security, e-commerce, and financial technology, Atlanta became and continues to be the capital of healthcare IT. The early healthcare technology giants like HBOC blazed the trail for a number of Atlanta entrepreneurs, including Jeff Arnold, who began WebMD in 1998.
So this light bulb went off in our head, and we said, instead of being an EKG company on the web, why don't we build a homepage for health called WebMD? And I'll never forget, I was at a Atlanta business function, and I was in the audience, and they were honoring one of Atlanta's Entrepreneurs of the Year, and it was Bolin Jones. And I walked up to him afterwards, and I said, hey, I've got this great idea. I want to take these EKGs, I want to put it on the web. And at that time, Bolin's company, Premier, had just gone public in 1996, and he said, well, that's a great idea. Why don't we have breakfast? Next day, I had breakfast with him. The next week, he had given me a whole floor in his office, and we literally moved in rent-free, and we went from 0 in revenue to 1.1 billion in those 18 months, all out of that free rental space that the CEO of one of Atlanta's great technology companies let us borrow.
Thanks to the efforts of community organizations like the Metro Atlanta Chamber and Technology Association of Georgia, the message of Atlanta's commitment to healthcare technology is being spread rapidly.
In the area of health IT, Georgia leads the nation. In fact, we're referred to as the nation's health IT capital. We have over 200 companies and $4 billion in annual revenue. With our emerging companies and a strong industry cluster, we are prime positioned to continue this rapid growth.
Atlanta's technology success is well documented and evidenced by leading serial entrepreneurs and industry leaders who remain active in our community as executives and investors. Those leaders are optimistic about the promising future of our tech community.
According to the Kauffman Foundation, Georgia's establishing over 500 new businesses a month. That makes us #1 in the nation. So we're very much an entrepreneur state.
I've done a lot of work in Silicon Valley and in the Boston, New York areas as a venture capitalist, and no area, in my experience, is more open to networking, more collaborative, and has more of a sense of the greater good of the community than the Atlanta community.
We're as strong as they get in financial services. You know, we're as strong as probably the strongest in the security sector.
It's a great place to be in our business. It's a great market for growth companies. It's a phenomenal place to invest in great, strong businesses.
I'm especially excited about what's happening from a woman entrepreneur perspective. Whether it's Startup Chicks, whether it's there's been a lot of talk about some funds that are focused on women entrepreneurs. And I think mostly there's a number of women entrepreneurs, whether it's Joan Herbick, whether it's Kelly Gay, whether it's Yum Arnold, whether it's Joe Lyman, that these women are now coming back in a mentoring role or in a funding role and helping some of these early stage women.
There's lots of things going on, from Flashpoint at Georgia Tech to companies coming out of ATDC to companies that aren't even on the radar yet.
We arrived to the technology community with a predisposition of optimism, if you want to call it that. And we identified Atlanta as having terrific potential many years ago and got very quickly involved with TAG, with Women in Technology, Venture Atlanta, and we've deeply vested in the technology community and arrived here with a bullish view, and we maintain that view.
Venture Atlanta is the culmination of our state's technology success and represents a solid partnership among our leading technology and business organizations, the Metro Atlanta Chamber, the Technology Association of Georgia, and the CEO Council. And a special thanks to Glenn McGonigal, Chair of Venture Atlanta 2011, for his leadership.
On behalf of the Venture Atlanta Board, I want to thank all the members of our community, as well as our many sponsors and volunteers that go into making Venture Atlanta and our community the success that it is. Thank you.